Hello crafty friends, this is part 2 in how to make a junk journal step-by-step tutorial. In this video I'm going to show you how I decorated the cover. I start by gathering some supplies. The first thing I always think about is how I'm going to close or tie my journal, because this will affect how I decorate the cover. For this journal I'm going to use a piece of calico fabric. I have just ripped it because I like the tatty and frayed ends. We will work with that a little later on. For now, I'm going to look at placement of the different elements on my cover. First, I'm going to look at all the placement of the elements. This can take some time, and I find sometimes I will move things around back and forth. Sometimes I'll end up where I started, other times it'll change completely. You'll know when you're happy with the composition. The centerpiece that I'm using is from the printable kit. It is like an envelope, the front of an envelope with the handwritten address. And then I'm using little bits of paper tucked in underneath. These same papers I'm using inside the journal, so I like to connect them so everything is cohesive. Yes, that is a name that is die cut. The name is Sophia. I had used that for another project many years ago and I had some left over. And now I like to use it as little flourishes or curls as part of my project. So you won't be able to see the name when I'm done. I just like the curls it creates. And it's a white cardstock so it contrasts well. And I'm going to use a little bit of that tucked in underneath to create some interest. I then decided I want to put all of this on a background paper. I'm going to use this pink stripe, also featuring inside the journal. I'm going to relocate all my elements to the striped paper. I wanted to make this cover interactive, so I'm going to add a pocket. My favorite way of adding a pocket, especially for a cover, is using vellum. I have this beautiful piece of light pink vellum, and I'm going to create a pocket on the envelope printable. I'm going to machine stitch the vellum onto the background with some white thread, and I've done a little bit of bunching too. I just love threads everywhere. And then I'm going to trim it to size. I'm just using a ruler. I don't really want neat edges. A ruler will work just fine. If you prefer something neater, of course you can use your cutter or a scissors. The vellum didn't tear quite straight at the bottom right, but I'm going to leave it like that. I do love it. Not always symmetrical. And we have a pocket, so we're going to need to fill it. The first two tags that I'm going to put inside are from the printable kit. I'm going to glue those down onto a cardstock. Because I've printed my kit on a normal copy paper, they're quite thin and I want to make it a bit more sturdy. So I'm going to use the cardstock. The kit that I'm using is from NectarsCreations and it's a new kit called Vintage Rose Medley. I'll put a link to it in the description box below. There is also a lovely discount for you if you use the code also mentioned in the description box. So I've cut out my tags and they are a little bit long. I don't like them sticking out of the top, so I'm going to trim them down. Easy way, I'm just going to cut off the tops and then remake the tag corners, and then you have a smaller tag. You could also cut from the bottom, but I didn't want to lose the floral design. Those fit much better. I'm going to punch a hole in the top. I'm going to use the original tops of the tag as a template so I know where to punch the hole. I like using shortcuts and easy ways to do things. I'm going to put some eyelets in these. I just like the detail it creates and I think it suits this project. And a quick touch of distressing all around each tag. I use the Tim Holtz Distress ink. I usually use the color Vintage Photo. This color is Walnut. Once I'm happy with the placement of all my elements, I'm going to start sticking everything down onto the striped background paper. Sometimes it is helpful to take a photo of your final composition before you start sticking so you don't lose the placements of where everything is. I haven't done that and I'll just hope for the best. I'm using a glue stick to stick most of these elements because it's paper on paper, and you'll notice I'm using the middle element, which is with my pocket, and I placed that on top to be able to see where my under layers are going to be positioned. I keep referring back to that, keep placing it just to check that everything is sticking out the right amount. You'll also notice I did a bit of corner rolling on the paper elements that I stuck down. and I just like to fold them up. I like it to look quite used and vintagey, so I like to turn them up a little bit and rough them up. Of course, there are many ways to decorate your junk journal cover. This is just the way I enjoy doing mine. My style is quite similar throughout my journals, but you can use this for inspiration, or you can do yours totally different. I like lots of layers on mine. Some people prefer it more flat. I like mine interactive with pockets and tags. It really is personal preference, and this video is just for inspiration and to show you my thought process. I'm using double-sided tape to stick down the envelope onto the top. Because there are quite a few layers underneath, including the little swirls that I'm using, I thought that the double-sided tape would work better. I have some vellum style stickers. I'm going to add those too. I love the color green. It matches the whole theme really well. And as I said, I like to overload it. And for this small piece of cardstock that says notes, I've used the hot glue because it's a thicker cardstock. The reason I'm explaining about the different adhesives I'm using is because I get a lot of questions because I use multiple ones within a project. I'll use a hot glue, I'll use craft glue, double-sided tape, glue stick, and people normally ask me, how do I choose what I use where? Sometimes it's just random, whatever is in front of me, but where I can, I will explain the reason why I'm using that. I want to add some more green, some more foliage because it is a floral kit. I think it'll go well. These are rub-ons, like rub-on stickers from Taperlogy. I'll put a link to their website below. There's also a discount for you. I love working with these. They have great designs, and what I like about them is they're not like a normal sticker. Obviously, they're a rub-on. They don't have that gloss or glare. When you rub them on, it just blends into your project really well. So I want this foliage to be sticking out from underneath my flowers. So I normally will position the flower on top before I stick it down, just to make sure I know where I'm placing the rub-ons. I'm not going to be talking or explaining through the entire process. If I've explained what I'm doing, I will just leave it for you to watch, or you could just skip forward if you want. I don't play music. There are so many copyright laws at the moment. I don't want to have a copyright strike against my video, so I'm just going to keep it quiet. And I also don't like to talk just for the sake of talking. I will explain what I'm doing and then leave it at that. Then for some additional texture, I'm going to add some scrumpled up thread underneath my flowers. I'm just using an off-white color, the same that I'm going to use inside the journal. I'm going to stick my flowers on with hot glue. I'm just trimming underneath them to get them as flat as possible. And you don't need to add additional glue when you're putting down the thread. The glue from the flowers will stick that down. I want to add some ties onto one of the tags. I have this beautiful multi-layered thread, also from Taperlogy. I'm just going to cut a piece. It's got about 6 or 7 different types of fabricy ribbons that are together, which make it look really nice and create a great texture. I'm just going to tie that on the top and trim it off. The colors match beautifully. And for the other tag, I'm going to use a piece of calico fabric, the same that I'm going to use for the closure. I love all the frayed edges. This then stayed on my desk overnight. When I came back the next morning, I realized that I don't like these flowers. I have these roses which will suit the theme much better, so I'd rather add those. So I'm going to remove the pink daisy-like or cosmos type flowers. I'm going to just gently remove them. They are done with hot glue. I really don't want to tear the paper, but I'm lucky they came off pretty easily. Yes, you are allowed to change your mind. I give you permission. One thing I did forget to mention when making the tags, as you know, I glued the printable onto a cardstock to make it more sturdy. The cardstock I use is a color that's coordinating to the entire theme. So when you turn those two tags over, I think I used a light green, which is also used inside the journal. So the cardstock I used was double-sided. The one side was maybe really, really bright, but I always try to choose for the color that's going to be showing something that is matching the theme. And then I also found this cute little piece of green cardstock with little punched holes on the top and a little sticker with a number. That's what was actually lying on my craft desk, and I thought they suited it well, so I popped them in the pocket. Because these roses I'm using now are quite a bit smaller than the previous flowers, we need to add something a little bit more. I'm going to use these leaves. These leaves are just die cuts. I have a die in that shape and I've cut them on a nice green cardstock, 2 different tones. I'm adding a little bit of distress ink just to tone the green down a little bit. And I'm going to place these underneath the roses, overlapping some of them, leaving some a little bit longer. And a few white petals. I have these white paper flowers. I'm just going to cut a couple of petals and put them underneath. I like the white contrast it creates, which blends well in with the little curlies that I have used on the underside, if that makes sense. I like to create an overall balance. For the green leaves, I'm going to stick these down with a liquid glue. Some of them are going to be stuck over multiple layers, so I want it to be a little bit more secure than just a glue stick. I'm going to use Mod Podge here, but you could use craft glue or even gel medium. And I'm using a small paintbrush and applying the glue directly to the back and then pressing them down in place. And then another idea popped into my head. I wanted to add some gold leaf, and I should have done this first, but I only thought about it after I'd stuck the leaves down. Thankfully, the glue was still wet, so I could lift the leaves up. I've applied some glue stick, and then I'm rubbing the gold leaf over the glue stick, and I really love what the gold leaf does to a project. I'm not putting it everywhere, just some touches here and there. As you rub it with your finger over the glue stick, it does only stick where the glue is and leaves a very uneven edge. I'm going to do the same at the top. And because I want the gold leaf to be part of the background, I'm doing it underneath the leaves. And then I can continue with sticking down the leaves. And then you're going to use the hot glue to glue down the flowers because they're pretty chunky. Before I attach it to the cover, I want to distress the edge all the way around. I'm going to use some distress ink, but I'm also going to tear some sections and then curl the little bits sort of inwards. I use my piercing tool to help with this, but you could also use a toothpick. And I'm doing this in random sections all the way around. I'm also curling up the corners. You could also use your scissors to rough up the edge. I know there's a special tool for this, which is on my wish list, but the scissors and my hands will have to do for now. I want it to look like it's peeling off, that it's so aged, it's peeling off the cover. I'm now going to add my tie because I want the tie to be underneath the actual decoration of the cover. I'm going to measure it halfway and then I'm going to stick it down midway of the book. I'm going to measure this to be sure it is in the center, because if it's slightly off and it's glued, it's probably going to do my head in. One of the few things I actually measure. And then I'm going to apply some hot glue all the way across and stick the front part down. I'm not sticking it all the way across. It's going to be loose at the back. It's just going to be stuck down where the actual cover decoration is going to be. I'm then going to use a large amount of double-sided tape to attach this to the cover. I really want it to hold well. And then press it down in place. And I'm really happy at the way this is looking. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this slightly longer video. I really hope you enjoyed it and got some inspiration. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the little bell so you're notified every time I upload new content. Happy creating. See you again soon. Bye.